Today we're gonna have a little bit of fun, and I'm gonna tell you about the 10 albums that changed my life. If you are a musician or even just a casual music fan, chances are pretty good that you have some cornerstone albums with which to hang your hat on. Albums that changed you, that had significant meaning or were there for you in significant moments of your life. So without further ado, here are 10 albums that changed my life. Album number 1, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Now you guys may think this might be a kind of a weird, unorthodox choice, but this was the first album that I really remember being conscious of the fact that I was listening to music, and more importantly, music that I really, really enjoyed. I distinctly remember asking my mom, how do they all sing so well together? Like, how are they doing that? The vocal harmonies and the layerings of all of the vocal parts. I used to ask my parents, like, how did they do that? No, but like technically, how did they do that? My brain just couldn't comprehend that there were musicians that could sing that well together. And the first album that I remember ever buying for my own consumption was Pet Sounds from the Beach Boys. Album number 2 is an album that a lot of us guitar players have in common. It is 1978's self-titled Van Halen album, Van Halen. And this is an album that my dad used to just blast at ear-splitting volume, at least as I remember it, whenever my mom would go to the grocery store and my dad had the house to himself. This is the album that my dad would put on, and this is the album. I distinctly remember the car noise on the very intro to Running with the Devil. I used to cover my ears because it was just so damn loud. And I used to stare for hours at the back of that vinyl record, the album cover, wondering how David Lee Roth does that little back, like, isn't his back hurt if he does that? Be that as it may, the first Van Halen record was an insanely influential one for me personally. Good sing-along hooks, huge guitar riffs, and just a really fun record to listen to, even today. What a classic. Album number 3 that changed my life is 1993's Nirvana, In Utero. This is the album that actually was the moment that I decided to pick up the guitar. I was doing some work. I think I was in 7th grade, 8th grade. I might have been in 8th grade. I was doing some work for a friend's father who was an electrician, and he used to pay us to run electrical underneath houses in places and crawl spaces that he couldn't fit. And this one particular job, he was going to give me $40. And instead, I asked for $20 and the Nirvana CD because I had heard the song Heart-Shaped Box on the radio. And he said, okay, fair enough. I'll save a little bit of money too, because I think CDs were $15 at that time. So I got $20 and an In Utero CD. And I used to stare at the back for that black and white photo of Nirvana on stage and Kurt's effects pedals. And I used to just wonder, what do those do? Or what's even happening here? And that was the crux for me wanting to play guitar, which changed my life in a whole nother way. Album number 4 is Alison Changes' Dirt album, coming out in 1992. This album really got me listening to the intricacies of the guitar parts in relation to the vocal harmonies and really dissecting the song and the song structure as I knew it at that time. I used to just pour over the riffs of Jerry Cantrell, and I used to just endlessly, hours and hours and hours, just used to try to play Wood and Angry Chair and Them Bones. My father even actually mentioned it the last time I saw him a few weeks ago. He's like, man, you remember how much time you used to spend listening to that Alice in Chains album? Man, that was annoying. Here I am today. Album number 5, Far Beyond Driven from the mighty Pantera. This is an album that I didn't specifically go and pick up by itself on purpose. I was actually at Blockbuster Music picking up Rage Against the Machine's Evil Empire album that had just come out at the time. And I saw Far Beyond Driven, and my cousin Dennis, who had driven me to Blockbuster Music, mentioned that one of his friends said it was a really good and heavy album, So I utilized, I think there was some kind of a special, you buy one, get another one half off or something like that. I bought Far Beyond Driven, having no idea what I was buying, and because that's just what she did at the time, and I took it home, and I had never heard anything so heavy in my entire life. And it was so heavy, and I was so worried about my parents, but I was 14 at the time. I was so worried about my parents actually flipping out about what I was listening to. I used to listen to Far Beyond Driven in secret with headphones when no one else was around. True story. So yeah, Far Beyond Driven, the heaviest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Album number 6, Full Circle from Pennywise. This album I heard in a friend's car going to high school one day, and it was a day in 1997. The album had just come out, and he was like, man, check out this band Pennywise. They're like a faster, more heavy Bad Religion. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The fast staccato riffs of Fletcher, and just it was heavy, but there was a lot of groove, and it was fast, and they were actually talking about things that I really cared about being alone and isolation and caring about your fellow man, etc., etc. And I just fell in love with punk rock at that very moment. Album number 7, Stay Asleep from Bigwig. Now, in the context of 1999, this album blew my mind, my guitar playing mind, my psychological mind, my emotional mind. This album for me was everything I was thinking and feeling in 1999. I had freshly graduated high school. I was living on my own for the first time. I was living with my band, and we collectively went to the underground record store in Kent, Washington to get this album the day it came out. And I can't even describe how blown away I was with this album. It was musical. You could sing along to the choruses, but there was riffiness and there was a little bit of lead work. There was literally something for everyone, and there was something for me in every aspect of music that I dearly loved. And Bigwig was just such a huge influence for me. This album, without question, changed the course of my entire life when I was 19 years old. Album number 8, Thrice, Illusion of Safety. By the time 2002 rolled around, I felt stale with guitar. I really wasn't playing it that much anymore. I hadn't played it for like a year, and there was a college station here at the time called KGRG, which is Auburn Green River Music. They have a small radio station, and they played the very first track off of the Illusion of Safety album when Thrice, I think they were coming to town or something with Coheed and Cambria, and I heard the freshest, most guitar-oriented thing I had heard in a long time, since the Bigwig album several years later. But it wasn't punk rock. It was heavy, but it had really hooky choruses, and it was musically so clever. I was just instantly enthralled with the Illusion of Safety and playing guitar again, which, again, I hadn't played in like a year and a half. So because of the Illusion of Safety, I am here today. I can say that with absolute certainty. Changed my life, man. Album number 9, 2006's Blood Mountain from Mastodon. Up until this point, I listened to some kind of a sludgy stoner rock stuff, but I didn't like how slow it was, and I didn't like the production value of a lot of that stuff. And for me, at that time, Blood Mountain was really putting together the best elements of Neurosis, but kind of having some more melodic elements while being kind of faster. But I was just, it was a culmination, and it was a meshing of a lot of different styles of music that I did love individually, all in one package. That was Mastodon. And Blood Mountain perfectly illustrates just the best of that band, in my opinion. Oblivion went on to be amazing a few years later, and Leviathan before it was incredible, but I really feel like Blood Mountain was just absolute perfection. It really captures a feeling for me, and it really captures a moment in my life that I often enjoy reflecting on. Finally, album number 10, Beacons from Cloud Kicker. Cloud Kicker and Ben Sharp releases all the music of his under the name Cloud Kicker. Beacons was an epiphany for me. This was the first time I realized that I was listening to fake drums, MIDI drums, and I didn't know they could sound that great. I really wanted to start a YouTube channel. I really wanted to start writing my own music that I had in my head, but drums was a huge stepping stone that I just couldn't seem to get over. I emailed Ben and he graciously emailed me back telling me and explained to me how Superior Drummer worked. And so here we are, all of these years later, almost 10 years later, and it was because of Ben's email explaining to me exactly how MIDI drums worked and to go get Toontrack Superior Drummer that I am even here making this video for you guys to watch. So kudos to Ben and the sheer brilliance of Cloud Kicker. I still reference, I was listening to Cloud Kicker yesterday on vinyl, and it's still absolute brain candy for me, and maybe it is for you as well. There you go, 10 albums that changed my life. Give me some albums that changed your life in the comments. I really love hearing what people enjoy and listen to and found pivotal. It's really, really an interesting thing, and it's a very personal thing, but I think it's something that it's definitely worth sharing nonetheless. All the pickable links down below in the description. You have been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.